Imagine for a moment that everything you believe about friendship is wrong. From the time we are children, we're taught to believe that if we're kind enough, loyal enough, generous enough, people will return those qualities to us forever. We grow up with stories that celebrate lifelong friendships, unbreakable bonds, and people who stand beside us no matter what. It's a beautiful idea. But if you build your life on beautiful ideas instead of uncomfortable truths, reality will eventually become your greatest teacher. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that others think about them as much as they think about others. They don't. Every person you meet wakes up each morning carrying their own fears, ambitions, insecurities, desires, and problems. They are making decisions based on what protects them, benefits them, or moves them closer to the life they want. That doesn't make them evil, it makes them human. The moment you understand this, something incredible begins to happen. You stop taking every disappointment personally. You stop asking, why would they do this to me? And start asking, what were they trying to gain? That single shift changes everything. It replaces emotional reactions with clear observation. Think about the people who disappeared when your life became difficult. They weren't necessarily pretending all along. Many simply stayed as long as the relationship served a purpose in their own lives. When the circumstances changed, so did their commitment. This happens in friendships, workplaces, business partnerships, and even within families. People often confuse convenience with loyalty because the two can look identical until life becomes uncomfortable. Now, this doesn't mean you should become cold or distrust everyone you meet. That's not wisdom, that's fear wearing a mask. Real wisdom is seeing people as they truly are instead of forcing them to become the heroes of your personal story. When you expect people to act according to your values instead of their own interests, disappointment becomes inevitable. Have you ever noticed how quickly someone's behavior changes when money, status, opportunity, or recognition enters the picture? Suddenly priorities shift. Promises become negotiable. Words lose their value. What changed? Human nature simply revealed itself under pressure. Pressure doesn't create character, it exposes it. This realization isn't meant to make you bitter, it's meant to make you stronger. When you stop expecting unconditional loyalty from everyone, you stop handing people the power to destroy your peace. You become more observant, more patient, and far more selective about who earns a place in your inner circle. The strongest people are not those who never trust. They are those who trust wisely. They understand that respect must be earned, consistency must be observed, and loyalty is proven over time, not assumed because someone smiles, agrees with you, or calls you a friend. The truth may be uncomfortable, but it is also incredibly freeing. The day you stop expecting people to put your interests above their own is the day you stop living in constant disappointment and start living in complete emotional freedom. Now that you've accepted the reality that people naturally act according to their own interests, the next lesson is even more important. Stop confusing kindness with loyalty. This is where countless people make decisions that cost them years of disappointment. Someone speaks to you with warmth, or they compliment you, they check in on you, they spend time with you, and almost without realizing it, you begin writing a story in your mind. You convince yourself that because they are kind today, they will remain loyal tomorrow, but kindness is a moment. Loyalty is a pattern. There is a tremendous difference between someone enjoying your company and someone standing beside you when standing beside you costs them something. Anyone can be supportive when life is easy. Anyone can smile when there is no risk involved. The real measure of a relationship is what happens when circumstances change, when your success makes others uncomfortable, when your failures offer them nothing in return, when helping you requires sacrifice instead of convenience. That is where appearances disappear and character begins to speak. People often become emotionally attached to words because words are comforting. I've got your back. You can always count on me. We'll never let anything come between us. These phrases feel reassuring because they satisfy a deep human desire to belong, but words are cheap when they are never tested. Actions, repeated consistently over time, are the only language that reveals truth. Watch how people behave when they have nothing to gain from you. Observe whether they remember you when you are no longer useful. Pay attention to whether they celebrate your victories with genuine joy or with hidden discomfort disguised as polite congratulations. Envy is one of the quietest emotions in human nature. It rarely announces itself openly. It hides behind smiles, compliments, and subtle distance. Many friendships begin to fade not because of conflict, but because one person's growth becomes a silent reminder of another person's unfulfilled ambitions. This is why observation is one of the greatest forms of intelligence. Most people listen to promises. Wise people study behavior. Someone may tell you they value honesty, yet constantly avoid difficult conversations. Someone may claim to support your dreams, yet discourage every bold decision you make. Someone may call you family, yet disappear the moment your life enters a difficult season. Believe what people repeatedly do, not what they repeatedly say. Another mistake people make is assuming that time automatically creates loyalty. It doesn't. Years spent together do not guarantee trust. Some people remain in your life simply because of routine, shared history, or mutual convenience. Remove the convenience and the relationship quietly disappears. Longevity is not proof of depth. Consistency under pressure is. This understanding should not make you suspicious of everyone. Instead, it should make you slower to assign trust. There is no prize for giving your heart away too quickly. Strong people allow others to earn access to their inner world. They don't rush intimacy. They don't confuse attention with commitment. They let time reveal character because time exposes what charm can temporarily conceal. As you move forward, become a student of patterns rather than promises. Notice who remains consistent when no one is watching. Notice who respects your boundaries without complaint. Notice who speaks well of you when you are absent. These quiet moments reveal more about a person's loyalty than years of pleasant conversations ever could. From this moment on, let actions become your evidence and consistency become your standard. Once you begin judging people by their actions instead of their words, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. Betrayal is rarely as sudden as it feels. Most people describe betrayal as something that came out of nowhere, but if they were completely honest with themselves, they would remember the moments they chose to ignore. The small lies, the broken promises, the subtle disrespect, the uncomfortable feeling in their gut that whispered, something isn't right, but they silenced it because they wanted the relationship to be what they imagined, not what it actually was. The greatest danger isn't betrayal itself. The greatest danger is our ability to create comforting illusions. We don't see people as they are. We see them as we hope they will become. We fill in the gaps with optimism. We explain away behavior that should concern us. We excuse inconsistency because we fear losing the connection more than we fear losing the truth. Have you ever noticed how your instincts often recognize danger long before your emotions are willing to accept it? Your mind notices the delayed replies, the change in tone, the lack of enthusiasm, the subtle competition, the strange discomfort when good things happen to you. Yet your heart says, I'm probably overthinking it. So you ignore the evidence. Weeks become months, months become years. Then one day, when the betrayal finally becomes undeniable, you call it unexpected. But it wasn't unexpected, it was ignored. Human beings rarely transform overnight. They reveal themselves gradually. Character leaks through tiny decisions. Someone who speaks negatively about others will eventually speak negatively about you. Someone who constantly seeks personal advantage will eventually place their advantage above your relationship. Someone who avoids accountability today will avoid accountability tomorrow. The signs are almost always there. We simply fail to connect them because hope is louder than observation. Another uncomfortable reality is that envy doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it grows closest to you. The people who watched your journey from the beginning may quietly struggle when they see you moving ahead. They compare your progress to their own life. They smile with you publicly while privately questioning why your opportunities seem greater than theirs. Most people will never admit these feelings, even to themselves. Instead, envy changes their behavior in subtle ways. Their encouragement becomes weaker. Their support becomes inconsistent. They celebrate your victories with polite words but little genuine excitement. This doesn't mean everyone around you secretly wants to see you fail. It means you must understand that human emotions are complicated. People can love you and still compete with you. They can admire you and still resent you. They can support you in one season and withdraw in another. Understanding this keeps you from being shocked when relationships change with changing circumstances. One of the strongest habits you can develop is paying attention to repeated patterns instead of isolated events. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has bad days, but repeated behavior is never accidental. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, repeatedly disappears when you need them, repeatedly makes you question their honesty, they are teaching you something valuable. Believe the lesson before life forces you to learn it the hard way. Pain has an unusual way of becoming wisdom, if you're willing to study it instead of simply suffering through it. Every disappointment leaves behind a clue. Every betrayal reveals a weakness in your judgment, a blind spot in your expectations, or a lesson about human nature that will make you stronger the next time. The people who grow the most are not those who avoid betrayal. They are the ones who refuse to waste it. So don't ask why it happened. Ask what it came to teach you, and never ignore the lesson twice. After learning to recognize betrayal for what it truly is, you arrive at the most powerful lesson of all. Your greatest protection is not finding better people. It is becoming emotionally independent. Most suffering doesn't come from what others do. It comes from the expectations you place on them. The moment your happiness depends on someone else's approval, loyalty, or attention, you've handed over control of your emotional life. And once another person controls your emotions, they no longer need to control your actions. You'll do it for them. Think about how many people spend their lives chasing validation. They want everyone to like them. They fear disappointing others. They avoid difficult conversations because they're terrified of rejection. They say yes when they desperately want to say no. They stay in relationships that drain them because being alone feels more frightening than being disrespected. This isn't kindness. This isn't compassion. It's dependence disguised as love. Emotionally dependent people become predictable. Once someone realizes your need for acceptance, they don't have to threaten you. They don't have to argue with you. They simply withdraw their approval, and you begin changing yourself to earn it back. You become quieter, you stop expressing your opinions, you lower your standards, you tolerate behavior that violates your values because losing the relationship feels worse than losing your self-respect. But here's the paradox. The harder you chase acceptance, the less people respect you. Human nature values what has boundaries. People instinctively recognize those who stand firmly in their principles. When you constantly seek permission to be yourself, you communicate uncertainty. And uncertainty invites manipulation. There is incredible freedom in realizing that not everyone has to understand you, agree with you, or even like you. Your purpose is not to become universally accepted. Your purpose is to become internally stable. Stability means you don't rise because someone praises you, and you don't collapse because someone criticizes you. Compliments become pleasant instead of necessary. Criticism becomes information instead of destruction. Ask yourself a simple question. If everyone around you suddenly stopped applauding your efforts, would you continue pursuing your goals? If the answer is no, then you're working for applause instead of purpose. Purpose survives silence. Purpose survives misunderstanding. Purpose continues even when nobody is watching. The strongest individuals build their confidence from evidence, not opinions. They remember the obstacles they've overcome, the promises they've kept to themselves, the discipline they've developed through difficult seasons. Their self-worth isn't borrowed from the crowd, it's earned through consistent action. That's why they remain calm when others doubt them. They already know who they are. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally cold or pretending you don't care about people. Healthy relationships still matter. Encouragement still matters. Love still matters. But they become additions to your life, not the foundation holding it together. When your foundation is built within yourself, people can enrich your life without controlling it. There will always be individuals who misunderstand your confidence as arrogance. Some will accuse you of changing simply because you stopped accepting disrespect. Others will feel uncomfortable because your boundaries no longer allow them unlimited access to your time, energy, or emotions. Let them feel uncomfortable. Every meaningful transformation makes someone uncomfortable, especially those who benefited from the old version of you. The day you stop begging for approval is the day you discover a confidence that no one can take away. From that moment forward, your peace belongs to you, not to the opinions of the people around you. Once you no longer depend on other people's approval, your priorities begin to change. You stop asking, "How can I make everyone like me?" and start asking a far more powerful question: "How can I become someone people naturally respect?" Those two goals may sound similar, but they lead to completely different lives. One is built on pleasing people. The other is built on developing character. Many people spend years trying to be everyone's friend. They avoid conflict at all costs. They laugh at jokes they don't find funny. They agree with opinions they don't believe. They constantly give their time, their energy, and their attention, hoping that generosity will guarantee loyalty. But life has a strange way of proving the opposite. The more desperately you seek to be liked, the easier it becomes for others to overlook your value. Respect is different. Respect doesn't come from saying yes to everything. It comes from standing for something. It comes from having principles that cannot be bought by compliments or shaken by criticism. When people know that your words match your actions, they begin to trust your character, even if they don't always agree with your decisions. Consider the people you admire most. Chances are they aren't admired because they tried to please everyone. They're admired because they remained true to themselves under pressure. They spoke honestly when it was uncomfortable. They walked away from situations that violated their values. They accepted temporary loneliness rather than permanent compromise. That kind of strength leaves a lasting impression because it cannot be faked. One of the most important skills you can develop is the ability to say no without guilt. Every time you say yes to something that drains your energy, you're saying no to your own priorities. Every time you allow someone to cross your boundaries without consequence, you're teaching them that your limits don't matter. Boundaries are not walls built to keep good people out. They are filters that reveal who respects you enough to stay within them. Notice how some people react the moment you begin protecting your time. They accuse you of changing. They call you distant, selfish, or difficult. But ask yourself this: were they upset because you became a worse person or because you became harder to use? There is a significant difference. The people who genuinely care about you will respect your growth, even if it requires adjustment. Those who only benefited from your endless availability will often resist it. Another mistake people make is allowing too many individuals into their inner circle. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your thoughts, your plans, or your vulnerabilities. Trust should never be handed out simply because someone has been around for a while or knows your history. It should be earned through consistency, integrity, and mutual respect. Your inner circle should be small enough to protect your peace and strong enough to challenge you to become better. When you become selective, something interesting happens. The quality of your relationships improves. You stop collecting acquaintances and start building meaningful connections. Conversations become more honest, commitments become more reliable. You waste less time trying to impress people who were never invested in your future in the first place. Always remember that popularity is temporary. Today people applaud you, tomorrow they may criticize you. Public opinion changes with circumstances. But genuine respect is built slowly through discipline, integrity, and unwavering self-respect. It cannot be demanded and it cannot be borrowed. It must be earned day after day through the choices you make when no one is watching. Stop chasing friendship as if it were a prize, and become the kind of person whose character commands respect wherever you go. As we bring these lessons together, there is one final truth that separates those who spend their lives trapped in disappointment from those who walk through life with quiet strength. The goal was never to become suspicious of everyone. The goal was never to stop caring, stop loving, or stop trusting. The goal was to stop living under illusions. There is an enormous difference between becoming cynical and becoming wise. Cynicism believes that everyone is against you, Wisdom simply understands that every person has their own priorities, their own struggles, and their own desires. Once you accept that reality, you stop fighting human nature and start working with it. Too many people exhaust themselves trying to change others. They believe that if they explain themselves one more time, love a little harder, sacrifice a little more, or remain patient a little longer, people will eventually become who they need them to be. But people rarely change because of your expectations. They change because they choose to. And the sooner you stop carrying the responsibility for someone else's character, the lighter your own life becomes. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. It is looking at someone exactly as they are instead of who you wish they were. It is recognizing repeated behavior instead of making endless excuses for it. It is understanding that disappointment often begins where unrealistic expectations refuse to end. This perspective also changes the way you view pain. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin asking, "How can this make me stronger?" Every difficult relationship becomes a lesson in discernment. Every betrayal becomes a lesson in awareness. Every setback becomes a lesson in resilience. Life stops happening to you and starts preparing you. The people who become truly unbreakable are not those who never experience loss. They are the ones who refuse to let loss define their future. They refuse to become bitter because bitterness is another form of dependence. It allows the people who hurt you to continue occupying space in your mind long after they have left your life. Forgiveness is not about excusing their behavior. It is about refusing to carry their weight any longer. As you move forward, invest your energy where it produces lasting returns. Invest in your discipline because it never betrays you. Invest in your knowledge because it travels with you wherever you go. Invest in your health because it supports every dream you pursue. Invest in your purpose because it gives meaning to every difficult season. And most importantly, invest in becoming a person who can stand confidently alone if necessary, because anyone who is comfortable standing alone will never remain alone for long. Confidence attracts quality. Desperation attracts exploitation. You will still meet extraordinary people along your journey. There are honest people. There are loyal people. There are people whose actions match their words, but you will recognize them differently now. You won't rush to trust them because they were charming. You won't place impossible expectations on them because they were kind. You will allow time, consistency, and character to reveal who they truly are. That is how lasting relationships are built, not on hope, but on evidence. One day you'll look back and realize that the greatest gift life ever gave you was not the people who stayed forever. It was the people who left, the disappointments that opened your eyes, and the painful experiences that forced you to grow beyond your illusions. They taught you to rely less on promises and more on principles. They taught you to value peace over popularity, purpose over approval, and wisdom over wishful thinking. When you no longer expect everyone to be loyal, no betrayal can destroy your peace, because your greatest strength was never found in other people. It was always waiting to be discovered within yourself.